I'm a big go with the flow guy. I bust my ass all the time, and we're going to talk about your music and how much it resonates with me. But I always kind of look for life to give me that intro. Like, how am I going to start this off? And last year, I was lucky enough to chat with Canada's Queen of Punk, Ms. Biff Naked. I've
Hey,
definitely chatted with her before, and we've done some stupid, sarcastic stuff together. But this was the first time we got really serious, and I was really surprised with how much I Love Myself Today still resonates with her, how much she uses that song with her own life. So, my question to you, given your catalog, Die Trying, Tear Down the Wall, Get Through This, Best I Can, how much do your own lyrics and songs continue to help and inspire you in your everyday life?
yeah, great one. Um, just to back up to Beth, um, we used to call her the drummer stealer because all of our drummers in Art of Dying in the early days would play with us and then somehow join Biff Naked. It became this ongoing joke that our drummers we were just training for Biff's drummers. So, and I feel so blessed that, fortunate that I got to play with some of the best drummers on the planet. Just stars aligned, along the way. And it was just like, boom, you're Scotty, you're in, Flavio, you're in, Crippen, you're in, like all these amazing Canadian drummers. So it was just an awesome flow to see that happen, but still a joke when I think of Biff Naked and the journey. It's fun. Going to see my drummer, like back her up. It's pretty cool.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
yeah. So the songs, all the songs I've ever written, I mean, they just are pieces of what I'm going through in that moment. And um, so they're very important to me, as in that moment writing it is this cathartic moment of I've got to get this off my chest or out of my system. But then um, to watch those songs resonate with people, and then to go out and perform them live, and to see, to even like to get the stories after the show when we hang around and meet people, and people, get to tell you about how it's affecting their life. Um,
Mhm.
it's just a beautiful circle of love. Really, it's just like, hey, here's this thing that started from nothing and now it means something to you, and it means something to you. And I love how it means different things to different people. But those anthems, even the ones you just called out, like Die Trying, was really about the struggle of being in a band. It was about trying to like find the strength to never give up, like never say I'm not doing
Yeah.
this, keep going. Get Through This was an anthem about my dad's battle with cancer. And it was just when he was diagnosed, I was working at a futon store in Vancouver, and I just like flipped over the sign like back in 5 minutes, and the whole song just came pouring out over the next hour or whatever. Sorry to the people that needed futons that day, but you weren't getting one. I was a little preoccupied. So um that really just came out so fast. And so I was trying to think of like, if I was in my dad's shoes of getting that diagnosis, how would I feel? And looking in the mirror and trying to find again the strength to um to fight the moment, to uh, fight the diagnosis, really, just to be like, how do you get strength up in a moment like that? And
Yeah.
that just came, super quick. Best I Can, that one, um, I wrote on the shitter, which is pretty funny joke between my wife and I, because we're both artists, and all of our places in Vancouver were always like an art studio, like a loft. We were always in the same space. So whenever I would songwrite, it would be loud and it would, disrupt her day, so I would often lock myself in the bathroom and just, yeah, that would be my little privacy booth of of where to write and not, drive everyone mad. um
Yeah.
and that was her and I were early in our relationship when I wrote that, and it was really about our struggle as a couple. It's just like, I was just, you know, how you get when you're in love and you know, your whole world is just hanging on the other person, and you want to tell them something simple like, "Hey, I'm doing the best I can here," you know, like this is
Mhm.
this is all I got. So there are all these like dire moments of struggle, and um you know, I one thing I often think about is that I'm so fortunate to live in Canada, to have my freedom, to you know, have my body, I'm healthy, everything works right, you know. I often feel like not everyone is in that boat. Like lots of people are fighting hardships and different realities, and as I feel so fortunate, at the same time I have really rough days, you know, like I have shit
Yeah.
days where I'm just like, fuck, like how I'm not going to make it through this day. Like it's just, you get these horrible feelings. And then I think, oh my God, I have everything and I feel this way. Imagine how someone who has less, or is struggling more, how they feel. So I'm often just, taken aback by the human spirit and our willingness to fight through, um, I mean, Vancouver, we have such a homelessness problem here. You know, there's people on the streets day in, day out, scrambling to just make it to the next day. I'm often find myself like just staring at a group of homeless people and wanting to do something, but at the same time, just in awe that they're
Yeah.
keeping going. Like, wow, like you're up at a crack of 4 a.m. You're gonna get going. It's a totally different reality than some of us. But at the same time, they're not giving up. They're not uh, working hard. Like they're actually working hard. It's insane. So I just think the human, the whole like just watching us. I love observing what we're doing because it's crazy. The fortitude and the strength that we have within ourselves. It's pretty
Yeah.
special. Yeah.
I mean, human spirit is obviously a lot of what you're talking about, and then there's this idea you mentioned before we hit record about life and death, which I want to come back to. But you kind of said that the thing where I'll segue it, those days where we fall, and it happens to all of us. It happens to the people at the top, at the bottom. We have hard days, hard moments, whatever it is. Life will knock us down. In those moments, do you ever find yourself actually, going back to your own work, saying, "Okay, let me remember those lyrics that I wrote. I need to actually abide by this right now."
Yeah. Um, you know, I don't usually go back. I usually go forward. You know, I usually find myself writing just if I'm going through something, it's the new writing, the new song that's
Okay,
going to get me through it. Yeah, so I don't go back too much. And it's funny, I'm my 11-year-old is in here writing songs all day today. That's her summer this year is the summer of writing, and I'm
cool.
just listening to her right now. And she, as an 11-year-old, she's going through a rough thing with a friend, you know, and it was and I've just watched how the music she was writing just like saved her, flipped the whole thing, and now she's feeling not only better about the thing that happened, but she's also written this amazing song that she's proud of and gives her life
Yeah,
and life force, and it's so cool
yeah,
uh to see what art creating and art does for us, you know, and especially music,
mhm,
because it's just art is wonderful in any form, but music just has that universal, you know, animals, humans, we all understand music. We all see, I'm guessing that cats and dogs and stuff like music, but I'm sure they do, right?
yeah.
So
So
it,
you, so you don't. I like what you said, that you don't go backwards, you go forwards. Life doesn't reverse itself. So you don't necessarily rely on the stuff that you've created for inspiration. Instead, you put pen to paper more often in order to get things out and then see where that goes.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the power of the creative process um, always seems to help me. get through what I'm dealing with. Yeah.
I love where this is going because I've got this saying that I just started to. I've had it for a while. My buddy and I started a couple decades ago, but now I'm just owning it and putting it out there. PPOP, put passion on paper, and it's funny because I'm a big advocate of your art is your passion. It is your truth, right? Your truth is your art. Put that passion onto paper. And then the double entendre is that when you put it on paper, it turns into paper, right? If you want to make money off these things, it has to be a passion. It has to be the truth. And before we hit record, when I asked about, life and the art of dying versus art of living, you said something really cool. You said it's the arc. And so I've been saying for a long time that your truth, your authenticity is your art. But I love this idea that your arc is your art. That was the word that you used, as opposed to looking at a small microcosm, look at the whole life as the art. Is that how you feel, that your whole life is your art, that is your creation?
I do believe that. Yeah. I think um you you can almost tie that in with legacy. Like it almost seems like it works. Like um when you're here to begin with, you're too young to really know what you're doing, but you're just as powerful. When one of the first songs I ever wrote was the lyric was I've been myself since I could walk. And and it was just kind of a way to say I've never not felt like myself. So even being like a 3-year old or even less, maybe I don't remember that far back, but it was like
Mm.
always felt like me. I never felt like anything else or anyone else. And so I think it does start from day one. You start to your arc begins, and day Z or whatever it ends, and all that stuff you did in between those two things, your arc is definitely your art. Because I mean, I'm an artist, so I'm obviously there's a element of bias here, because I think that's the best thing you could leave the planet um is art, is music,
Mm.
is beauty, is warmth to
Yeah.
other people can absorb it. And you know being a dad now, like it's so fun to kind of try and share these little tidbits of information, even though most kids don't really have time for the dad chats all the time, and I'm kind of long-winded anyway. So, but I mean, I always go back to this idea of um with my daughter especially. It's like and it imprinted on me at a very early age. I think it was I don't know if it was a little video or a little book or a story or what it was, but it was um the idea of warm fuzzies versus cold pricklies. Raise your
Mm.
hand if that's something you read when you grew up. I read that somehow. I think my mom shared it with me, and it stuck with me my whole life. It's like when you go out in the world with a warm fuzzy approach, everyone you touch, the grocery store, the street light, the crosswalk, the bank, the whatever, everyone you touch, I believe it rubs off. And those hey, you don't honk your horn like get out of my way. You go, no, go ahead, cross. I'm cool. Like you just send out a little warm fuzzy, and I think that person does the same. And it just becomes this amazing ripple of warmth that goes around. And art is kind of like that.
Yeah.
And cold pricklies are the exact opposite. It's like you go out in the world angry and throwing cold darts and prickles everywhere you go, and it's just gonna you yell at this is you overcharged me for this. I'm so angry, like and you think about e- each moment. I think you kind of have that choice in your life. Like, how are you going to deal with this? You're going to send out negative vibes, because
Yeah.
I think they go real far, man. Like they probably
Mm.
travel further than we even know. So, yeah, art is kind of the biggest warm fuzzy I've ever felt, because, especially music, where you can write a simple melody, a lyric, and it can go affect everyone it touches. And that's just, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. But you inadvertently answered my, question. I was going to ask about the beginnings of this mindset that you have. Like, where did it come from? And everyone's journey with positivity or creation or resilience is different. Sometimes you live a whole lifetime and then tragedy strikes, and that's what, leads to it. A lot of that is what happened to me. I wasn't until 3 years ago that I had this whole 2-3 year sequence of just shitstorm that finally broke me down to the point where I said, okay, I get it. I'm going to let go. And I made peace with everything. And now I feel like the strongest, most empowered version of myself ever. Took me a while to get there. For you, you're 3 and you got a children's book and boom, it was ingrained. That's amazing. It's luck. What do you do now outside of writing to maintain that mindset, to maintain the warm fuzzies when life does inadvertently beat you down? How do you get back on the positive train? What are some of the tools and tricks that you use?
Yeah, I use cardio a lot. So like I do a stupid amount of cardio, and I find like, and I try and do it first thing in my day. So on a perfect day where I have enough time, I'll do a tiny bit of yoga, and then I'll do like a healthy amount of cardio. And if I don't do that, like if I skip a day, I just don't feel right. I feel flat. And then often I'll be in my shower after a workout, and I'll just be like feeling so, like, the positive endorphins that come from that, the dopamine that's released, whatever it is. And you're, uh, you feel like you've been through a major experience. Like you've sweat out so much of whatever
Mhm.
built up, and you're drinking tons of water when you're doing this, and your whole body's just becoming lighter and ready for the day. And so that's my number one, is like cardio, and just feeling ready to go out and be a warm person. Like I gotta prepare a bit. It'd be a bit more of a challenge if I didn't do that. um
Yeah.
I don't really have any other tricks, I don't think, other than, I guess, um, like I had a really good upbringing. Like my parents were just very special, loving people that ingrained a lot of this just in me, I'm sure subliminally. And I feel like probably I owe it all to them, that like I'm the way, I'm hopeful, I'm positive, I'm try to, like that early warm fuzzy lesson and stuff. Those things stuck with me because of them. So yeah, I feel
Mhm.
really fortunate to have had amazing parents.
That's awesome. I mean, like sometimes the simplest things are the best things. I have a pyramid that I try to refer to for myself, and then obviously with other people now, which is health, happiness, wellness, and wealth. Right. So wealth comes from a collection of those three things, and it starts with health. And man, the mornings that I wake up at 5 or 6 and I go to the gym, I do some like radio taizo, which is sort of like Japanese yoga, for lack of a better word, and then shower and get to my desk and like have a coffee. And then 9 o'clock hits and I'm like, oh my God, I've done so much today. I feel so jazzed with how accomplished I am. I went to bed at midnight last night. Put my kids to bed. And then I came down here because I was super behind and I did just grinded from 8 to midnight, crashed. And I woke up this morning, I don't know, 7:30. And I felt so much worse than when I do the opposite and get up earlier. It's
Yeah.
almost like I should have just got up at 2 in the morning instead and done it early. But I, uh, I hear you. So simple things, simple solutions that continues the positivity for you.
Yeah, I think so.
That's easy.
It's too
Um,
easy. It sounds too easy.
sounds too easy. There you go. Podcast over, done.
Glass of wine with
So
lunch always helps too.
that's true. The European values, got to have a glass of wine at lunch. Uh, I want to come back to your music, your lyrics, the mindset, and all that stuff. But I think this is a good segue into what you talked about with the frequencies, the vibrations, the connection of us. I saw on your IG just kind of a cryptic post that said, "We're all connected." The Ruliad or the Ruliad. Um, Talk to me about your beliefs or understanding of our global cosmic connection through frequency and music.
Yeah, the Ruliad's something I'm just starting to learn about. Uh, an author, I I can't recall his name right now, but I don't know how I stumbled upon his book. Um, but it was really I loved the word to begin with. I was like, oh, the Ruliad, that sounds cool. And then I heard him talk about it, and it was amazing. Just his theory of um, it's kind of like the multiverse theory taken to the next level. So an elevated version where it's every single um, possibility uh, makes up the Ruliad. So it's more than just like, if a lot of people think we live in a multiverse where there's a version of you and me talking right now, and there's a version of
Mhm.
you and me where we didn't have this connection today, and there's a version of you and me actually doing this tomorrow, or and it just goes on forever. Um, and what he's done is taken that idea to uh, that every single rule, every single possibility um, amounts to this place called the Ruliad, which is really as far as we can maybe take that thought, and that's where it actually comes from rule, that all the rules uh, amount to one existence. So it's just kind of any possibility is what led to this possibility. Which
Yeah,
is, it's kind of it's a big one, but I instantly took that and I was like, I gotta write a song about this feeling and this idea. So um it's quite possibly the title of our next album. So we have an album coming out in the summer, and the when I shared that with Tavis, my guitar player, he loved the idea, and we both loved the word. And now we've worked around some artwork on it already, and the artwork is really powerful and simple. So we're still leaning towards that being the title of the new record. So it's
that's cool.
yeah, it's kind of going to be an interesting one.
I find it funny, especially having this conversation now, that when I saw that, for me, that resonates, pun intended, because I do think that vibration, frequency, harmony is what holds all of this together. And that's how we're able to connect and manifest and, feel good with each other. Your lyrics embody that a lot. And then now you're telling me about like warm fuzzies and the was it the spikies, the sharp spikies,
Yeah,
which is basically,
cold
go
pricklies,
ahead.
the
Cold
cold
pricklies,
pricklies.
yes, thank you. But that's like the same idea, right? The warm fuzzies are certain frequencies and whatnot, ones that like attract to us. Do you find it funny that like that little book is so symbolic of like this cosmic energy, but also all the stuff that you're doing artistically and creatively?
Yeah, I guess it's funny. It's you know, the laws of attraction are so powerful. I think when you start thinking about certain things more, you probably pull those things towards you more. I have no idea how
Mhm.
I stumbled upon that book, but I feel like it. I I was interested in that kind of thing, so I think the attraction is definitely powerful. You know, so I'm not sure if it explains how I found it, but it's weird.
No,
Another thing I do, just a routine I do is crossword puzzles. I just do every day. I do one, like just I don't know. It helps wake my brain up. But lately, I feel like there's never a day that goes by where one of the solutions in the crossword puzzle is not directly out of my life. It's just like bang on the money. Like it's so strange. Um, it's a I'm still just thinking about that one because it's just like it's uncanny that, like, why would out of a 60 solution crossword puzzle, why would there be like one or two things every single day that's exactly something you're about to do or just did, or maybe it's coincidence, but I don't know, maybe not, maybe it's more than that.
I do feel like it's more than that. I remember that I mean, growing up, my parents would always say, like, if it looks like shit and smells like shit, it's probably shit. Or there was the other concept of, like, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. Too much coincidence is not coincidence. So, on that thought that you just had, check this. So, 2024, you released Won't Look Back.
Yes.
It had 13 songs. I happen to be a big ones and three guys. For me, it is the end. It's the end of the cycle. It's new beginnings. Well, that song, that track listing talks about specific sequence of events that I couldn't even have like imagined this any crazier. My girlfriend and I got pregnant with a little baby girl who we named Nova Monarch. And that album talks about like the start and then eventually tragedy and essentially don't look back and keep going. I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to like, you know, put that on the songs or whatnot.
Yeah.
A week after Nova was born, on Father's Day, she died in our arms.
Oh my God.
She only lived for a week, and that was that tragedy. This is 2024. And now we are about halfway through pregnancy for our next child, who is due towards the end of this year. And guess what her middle name is? Phoenix, song number
Oh, no way.
13.
Wow.
You were just saying, like, that's just crazy coincidence. I was looking that up and I was like, what are the odds that this guy is writing this album when I'm going through that entire arc, and that album culminates with Phoenix, and here we are culminating with our next daughter, who is Phoenix.
Wow, dude. That's amazing. First off, I'm so sorry to hear about the death of your daughter. That's hard.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Happened to a friend of mine, like similar 1 week, long time ago, but I know how that can be just, yeah, make you question everything you thought you knew probably and beyond. And very amazing and brave that you guys are going for it again. And, that's so cool. That's so
Well,
cool.
I'm like you. I share that sentiment that you said earlier. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I've made my peace with it as much as you can. But I'm like you. You can only move forward. It doesn't serve her or anyone in any situation to just sit there and wallow and grieve or to look back. You know, I mean, don't look back in anger. I heard you say you just got to keep going forward as hard as it is, no matter what. That doesn't mean you can't carry it with you and honor it and enjoy it and learn from it along the way, but don't stop. Keep going. So for me, like similar to you with the writing, I do stuff too. I create, I talk to people, I try to teach and share wisdoms with the world. It's wild, but I just wanted to share that because you're talking about it's so nuts how things happen. And when I saw that album sequencing, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Is this real life?
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. And you know what? Maybe if more people talked about this kind of stuff, that we would all discover that it's just every day.
Mhm.
That these things that we're attracting in and working with, and uh, I think it's becoming pretty obvious that there's more. There's more to this
Yeah,
whole picture than we know, right? And yeah, I'm sure we'll figure it out, because that's what humans do, man. We go figure it out eventually. But um,
agreed.
yeah,
Well, so let me ask you, because again, Instagram post, I happened to see this and hear this, and it spurred a thought. You had mentioned that you had worked with someone on one of your albums recently, and that person had since passed away, and they were like a near and dear friend for you. The band's called Art of Dying. How do you deal with death or loss? You know, what are some of the things that you do to get through those difficult times? You can't say yoga and writing.
no, I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I do get through it or over it, really. So like my dad, when I wrote Get Through This, he was diagnosed with cancer. He turned out he beat it and got a clean bill of health 5 years later. And we were just, like over the moon. And
Yeah.
then 4 years later, it came back and it got him. So he died 10 years after Get Through This was written. And he died at age 72, which, um, like when my friends talk about what they're doing today, oh yeah, my mom and dad are coming over. I'm hanging with my dad today. And I'm still, it's still just like, it irks me, and like, oh, I can never hang with my dad again. I'm I'm so I'm so appreciative of the time we had together that helps me a lot. I think that's
Mhm.
it. Is what's the quote? Don't be angry. It's over. Celebrate that it ever happened at all. Uh, that helps me a lot, just to think, wow, I had 72. Well, no, I didn't have 72. I had my whole life with my
Yeah.
dad up until he was 72. And those were some great years, some great times. And I look back on them, and I try to just let that celebration of those years make me okay with him being not here physically right now. And my buddy Daver, he was a just an amazing friend and co-writer. We just had this magic. He's a writer by nature, musician and writer, and we connected. And it was just one of those things where you kind of meet someone that you really click with. That's not in your band, but it is a you just we would we would get together and write. We'd do this. We'd talk like you and me for like 2 hours about what's up with our kid, what's up with our life, what's going on, what are we struggling with, or what's happening that's great. We had so many cool conversations, and then we would start writing a song about something that we touched on. Like, we halfway through
Mhm.
that 2 hours, we'd be like, "Hey, you mentioned your son and blah blah. Well, let's run with that." And then a few hours later, often we would have a complete song. It was just kind of one of those relationships that worked really fast. And we ended up writing the Armageddon record, the with the red kind of
Mhm.
Pharaoh guy on the front. He and I wrote that entire record over a year. And it was just like, uh, the band wasn't, we weren't together in the same city. So we weren't writing actively together. And Daver and I were both in Vancouver. So we just said, let's just write a song. And we wrote Armageddon first. And then we said, oh, let's write another song. And we wrote, and then next thing you know, we had written 14 songs, and the band really loved them all. And we started making the record with him and asked him to produce it. Um, so that was an amazing year of making music with a great friend who, we shared so many heart to hearts throughout that process. So, when I was at his celebration of life, his funeral, um, it was hard, man. Like, it was hard. I was a lot more shaken up. It was a really uh, old school kind of Croatian funeral where they weren't even speaking in English a lot of the time, and it
Mhm.
was really emotional. I was not doing the greatest, and I think I was just trying to lean on, you know, um, when we went to the graveyard and watched them, cap the tomb and everything. It was just like, I just kind of kept trying to remind myself of how much joy we had shared together. Um, and my daughter was there with me and my wife, and it was like, they they grounded me, man. I was just, kind of hanging on to my daughter Jake's hand a lot of the time, and just like, give me strength, 11-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
give me some of your um unconditional love, because I need it right now. So
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. It's never easy, and I just love asking the questions because you don't know where it's going to go. It sounds like gratitude and reflection on what you had, the time that you had. I guess that it's gratitude for that time is one of the big things that helps you get through those. I always say you got to heal it to feel it. Like if you don't honor those feelings, those emotions, you're not going to get past them, and they're going to weigh you down. And for me, I'm a big believer that, success comes from lightness. The lighter you are, the higher you rise, and you have to let go of these things as you go. So you then kind of instinctively reached out to your daughter, and you tried to heal and ground yourself and surround by love. So it sounds like the same thing that many of us do. No special tricks.
Yeah, and it's it's going to get harder as we get older. I think my mom is 82, and she's so many of her friends are falling ill, and like she has to deal with death seemingly like all the time now. And I'm there for her when I can be, and just be supportive kiddo. And
Yeah.
but I can just see already like 30, hopefully 30 years from now, we're all going to be like burying our friends and siblings and family, and it's part of life, man, I guess. And um my dad, so my mom and dad both were United Church ministers growing up. So they were um in the United Church of Canada, and it's a very um if you're not familiar, it's a very forward thinking forward thinking church. It's very like, it was the first church in Canada to ordain gays and lesbians and start
Right.
challenging some of the past um traditions. And my dad was rewriting a lot of hymns and church songs, with updating the language and like bringing progression to all that. Um and you know um I think the more, I won't speak for him, but I think the longer his journey with theology and religion, really organized religion, the longer he was in that journey, the more he just became spiritual, and he wasn't locked into any hard belief. Um, and before he died, he said, and I think he was a big Carl Sagan fan and reader, and had a picture of the planet Earth in his office. He loved the pale blue dot um, uh, comment from Carl. I think that was Carl Sagan, when our first photograph of the Earth from space. And they grew up during that time where we went to the moon, and we did all this
Mm.
crazy space travel, and we got to see, like, imagine getting to see Earth for the first time from outer space. Like, that's stuff that you and I were like, oh, that's no big deal. Like, we kind of take it for granted, and our kids are going to be
Yeah.
like, what? Oh, just Google a picture of Earth right now. Like, who cares? I'll just ask AI to draw me another picture of Earth. Who cares? But um my dad believed in Stardust. Like, at the end of the day, he was like, uh I think when you die, when you leave, you go back to Stardust. You go back to the Earth, which is Stardust, and we're all just in the cosmic Stardust somehow or another, right? So that helps me
Yeah.
too, is to think that um people don't, perhaps they leave us, and they're not with us, but they're still part of all of this in one way or another, and we will be as well. And going back to Stardust is not, I don't know what that, take it for what you think it means, but it's like, it helps me to think that, yeah, we're all made of Stardust, and we're going back to it. And that's there's something simply beautiful about that, I guess.
I agree. I think that that's the beauty of all of this. It's this special system. It's a symbiotic relationship. You can't have light without dark. You can't have life without death. And to respect one is to know and respect the other. If you live every day really appreciating your life, that's an amazing thing. If you focus on, death, then maybe that'll make you appreciate life, and vice versa. It's you just gotta live and let live, I guess. And whatever happens, happens. Let's talk about music for a bit, and then maybe wrap up with more of this mindset behind your actual lyrics. I try to as much as we're trying to just have a conversation here, I try to also give musicians or artists, creators, some tips and tricks along the way. You've been doing this for the majority of your life at this point, and you've had a lot of highs. 8 albums, 100,000 copies sold, 200 million streams, quarter billion, I think, almost, that you're pushing. Huge things to have seen and accomplished. What keeps you going now? When you hit certain highs, and I've asked this of other people, do you feel like, cool, I've hit that level, I'm good, or small victory lap and then keep going? How do you approach these big successes?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I've ever felt successful in the music business. Like, I don't think I've ever had that moment of like, yeah, I did it, which sounds, I guess it sounds a little weird because someone else would be with a different perspective would be like, what are you talking about? Like I'd give anything to, have that 8 albums
Yeah.
out. And it's like, well, I think that's part of what makes me tick too, is I'm never really satisfied with, like I'm, I feel like I'm both, like I can be grateful for what's happened, but still feel unsatisfied enough to not lose any drive. And now, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I create music for myself. I love the process of getting it out, and I love the process of um, finishing a song. My wife calls it song high, which is like she's now my
Mm.
daughter's song high every day. But it's like when those puzzle pieces click into place, usually mostly, well, we have it with melody. Like if you grab a guitar and you just start strumming and then you start singing a melody and it's not working, and then you stay persistent, an hour later still not working, um, and then it clicks and you're like, that's it, that's the moment. And you all of a sudden you feel this rush, and then you quickly record it so you don't forget it. And then you slowly, for me, my process, slowly start working on lyrics and what trying to get pull out of the ether what's going on and why I'm writing this right now. And when those lyrics click, it's a brand new high. And then when you get into a studio situation and actually record, and um, so many, like I record my own vocals just at home now, and it's like so fun when um, my family will usually clear out because I'm super loud, and why is dad screaming in the closet again? It's like that's kind of what's going on. But when I'm recording the actual vocal tracks, I have so much fun. And again, the little, when something's in time and in tune and it sounds right, and you got the emotion that you originally wrote a year before or whatever on that guitar, and it clicks into place, there's another high. And then like Christmas morning for me is when the producer sends back the final track and you're like, finally it's like done, ready for notes, and that's just the best feeling on the planet. It's like this little baby is just like gone from ether to car stereo, and it's like,
Yeah.
yes. And so I don't think I'll ever stop doing that, because it's just like, it's the process is what I love the most. It's just like,
Yeah.
I get jazzed thinking about it right now. I just want to go write a song just so I can feel all those 4 things again, It's just like,
Mhm.
wow. Yeah. So, I
I,
mean, the
I
drive,
feel
it's important.
I feel the same way. I had this aha moment halfway through this podcast series where, I realized the thing that is the most important is just the conversation. Like I get to sit here for an hour and pick Johnny's brain and get to know him and have this amazing conversation. Whether a million people see this or hear this, or if anyone likes it, is inconsequential, because this is what matters. And this is for me what feels good, probably akin to you having the songwriting, right? When I can connect with someone and get all kinds of alpha and information, like that's my high. Do you
Cool.
think you'd still be doing what you do if you didn't have the accolades and acclaim and successes that you've had along your career?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no question. I never got into music. I mean, I was growing up in the 80s, early 90s, and um I think for a second, like when glam rock was a thing, and Poison was riding motorcycles into swimming pools in California. There was like one moment where I was like enamored by that as a teenager, going, fuck, that would be cool, man. Just to, be able to quit your job and party all the time. That would be awesome.
Mm.
um, but then grunge hit, and I was like, oh shit, this is my music. This speaks to me. This is not about smashing hotel rooms and partying. This is about emotion. This is about love. This is about death. This is about how I feel as a young, however 20-year-old. I was like, holy shit, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Um,
The warm fuzzies.
the warm fuzzies, right? And yeah, those guys like the Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, all these guys, they they felt like they were singing directly to me. I felt like their pain was my pain. I felt like their struggle was my struggle. Um, to go see those bands live, I felt I was like the guy at Burning Man or whatever, just celebrating this beautiful music. And
Yeah.
that's what really got me into like the idea of, I really want to do that myself. I have that in me. I want to write, I want to sing, I want to perform. Um, so the idea of success through that was always a nice plan B to like, hey, if I can do that and it's a career, holy shit, like amazing. Like if I could
Yeah.
support myself and maybe have a family and make money from music, that would be cool. But it was never my driving force. Um, the one thing I will say is Greg Bradley, the original founder of Art of Dying and me, we kind of had this goal. And our goal was coming from Canada, coming from we both grew up in, kind of small town Alberta, moved to the West Coast to chase our dream, met and um started making music together. And from the get-go, we were like, what's our plan? And we
Mhm.
were like, get a US record deal. That is our only plan. We're never going to send a demo tape to a Canadian record company. We're never going to, go. We're only going to go down one path. Go get a US record deal. And that's what we did. We tried to figure out every person at every label in the US. We tried to hound everyone and send demo tapes. Um, and that was the one thing where when we met Disturbed and they got a hold of our first CD and they loved it, and then it's a kind of famous story to me now, but a little bit boring because I've told so many times. But it's just like they kind of picked us up out of obscurity, took us on tour, and then at the end of the tour said, "Gentlemen, we'd like to sign you to Warner Brothers, our label at Warner Brothers in the US." And when we actually signed that record deal, um, that was the moment for me where Greg and I were like, we fucking did it, dude. We did it. All those
Yeah.
years, all that grinding, all that carrying gear up and down stairs, and like we did it. And it had nothing to do with money or success. Well, success in a way, because we put our mind to something and it was clear. Like it was our mantra. It was like believe on the wall at
Mm.
what's his name? The soccer show.
I know what you
um
mean.
yeah. Um it was our mantra. It was just like, get a US record deal. And it sounds stupid now, even just looking back on it, but that was a big moment to be like, to feel successful. So I guess that's the one moment where I was like, I did feel successful at that point, because we had, not because we were successful, but because we had achieved the goal we set out to. And
I think you
there's
say
something to
it's
say about that. We maybe should
def-
have set our goals differently, like looking back, I would not recommend that because it I would recommend a higher goal than that. I would recommend, like, I want to connect with this many people, or and I think now with the way things are, record labels are almost in some ways obsolete. Like your goal should not be to have someone else all of a sudden be in charge of your career and your music. Your goal now, I think, more than ever, should be to reach people.
yeah. And I'm actually going to highlight that point in a second. You said something there that I really like. It's not about the accolades. It's not about the streaming numbers or anything. It's about the feeling success when you put the effort in and get to that goal or get to the milestone that you set out to achieve. So if you're a new artist and you're like, I would just love to get to where Art of Dying is, then make that happen. And when you get there, that is, what you should be happy about. Not that you're there, but that you've gone through that journey and made it happen.
For sure.
So you mentioned the Disturb thing. I don't want to harp on it, but I did want to ask kind of a psychology question. You've toured with huge bands, Papa Roach, Avenged Sevenfold, like the list goes on with stages you've shared with and tours you've been on. David Draymond signs you to his label. He compares you to Alice in Chains versus or meets the Eagles. When you get to a certain to like 250 million streams, when you get to these levels from where you are in the industry, how does one stay humble? How does one stay grateful and grounded and rooted and not go the other way, which we've seen so many people go, which is conceited, snobbery, I'm better than you, whatever it is? What's your trick?
Something about being Canadian that I really like. It's because we're friends with so many bands, and there's something in the water in Canada for sure. There's something in the water in Ontario where like 3 Days Grace came up. I mean, these guys, our bass player Kale is the cousin of Adam, who recently rejoined 3 Days Grace,
Yep.
and but all those guys, they're just such good people, so humble. They would never. I mean, these guys would do anything for you if they're your friend. But even if you're a stranger, these guys are good Canadian kids, man. And I feel like we're just so lucky that we grew up here because I feel like we don't really have that gene. And maybe I'm wrong. I mean, we're all different, but I feel like the Canadian actors, Canadian uh, musicians, Canadian comedians, I feel like there's this level of staying humble. Like we're not Americans, that's for sure, right? And I love Americans. I have so many great friends that are American, and it's a very different, mindset in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's um there definitely is an element of like stardom in the US is based more on not being humble sometimes. It's
Mm.
based on like how what's the opposite of humble? How unhumble can you be?
Yeah,
Like it's like how
braggadocious.
yeah, like I'm gonna tell it, scream it from the rooftops how great I am. And I feel like just it's not really in our DNA to do that here. And of course there's exceptions, but from my experience, like I've met so many uh great bands on the road, and most of them are humble, to be honest. Like I don't see a lot of crazy ego and stuff out there. So maybe it's just something in the music too, where you know um that this can all go away real quick, that bands
Yeah.
fall apart. I mean, I used to have just a crazy internal struggle um with how to run a band. It was just like because a lot of my friends ran bands or like they started a band and they would just be um the driving force and everyone else was kind of insequential, and didn't weren't treated properly, weren't paid properly, whatever, all those things. And when, you know, like a long time ago, I decided to like split everything equally within the band. And it's a tough decision because, you feel like I wrote that song, it's like, it's
Yep.
100% mine. I wrote it. It's mine. I want to hold on to it. I want all the rights. I want all the money. I want all the connection that this song generates. And a really wise friend of mine, who lives in Switzerland, actually, him and I often soundboard with him because he's a great music mind and just a great, he's got a great head on his shoulders. And I would often just like, and he wasn't involved, and he's over there in Europe. So it kind of felt like I can tell him anything. So I would just tell him like how hard it was to give up my intellectual property and share it equally with 4 other guys. And and he has some great advice, like that's what kept the band together. That's what keeps bands together. That's what makes people feel like they're in it just as much as you are. That's what keeps, so it's still a very hard choice, but I feel like Art of Dying in particular has had such a long career because we all like each other. We don't hate each other. We're not fighting over money or anything ever.
Mhm.
It's not that type of band. Um, and at one point I said to my guy in Switzerland, I was like, it's so frustrating because I'll write a song like best I can or whatever. And then people will be flipping through who wrote it. And there's like 10 names on it. And it's like so frustrating to me. And he's like, I said, I want people to know, that I wrote that. And he's like,
Yeah.
he said, and I was like, huh, hey, you're right. He's like, yeah, and that's all that matters. And that struck a
Yeah.
big chord with me, man. It allowed me to let go so much to be able to be like, yeah, I know. And I don't really care if some kid in Edmonton's reading the thing and goes, oh, I guess there's more than one songwriter on here. It wasn't just Jonny. It doesn't matter. I know,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters. So that was a big lesson in such a, like, I feel like that should be a t-shirt, it's just like, but and that's
Well,
all
I
that
think
really
that
matters, man. Yeah.
I think that's
That
a
was all.
huge, huge point. I think you're absolutely right, and I think that both of the things you talked about just now come down to that same concept of balance. Because to get really far, I think you do have to have a certain level of drive, of ego, of determination. But then when you get there, you can't have that ego, drive, determination. You almost have to leave it and be humble about it. So it's once again the balance. I had that same lesson happen to me when I was in early university years. So I guess late teens, early 20s. I remember being in like the cafe of the gym that I worked at, the cafeteria, restaurant, whatever, squash club slash gym. And I was sitting with this guy, Jeff Pringle, and someone's like a lady's jacket or coat fell off her chair. And I said, watch this, I'm gonna do a nice thing. And I picked up the coat and I put it on the chair and I tapped her on the shoulders, like, your coat fell. I just put it back for you. And I sat down feeling all like, ego and proud. And he goes, what would have been the right thing to do? I said, what do you mean? He said, just put it back and not even tell her. Why do you need to know? Why do you need the affirmation of
Right.
like having done that good deed when all that matters is that you know? So to your point, like I had that same lesson. It was so valuable because who cares? And now I work with an amazing team and I'm doing all this stuff behind the scenes. And sure, my name is on a lot of it, but I'm often the first to say it wasn't me, it was us, because it makes them feel good. And then I do the same. It's reciprocal, right? When they do things, they are humble about it. Rising tides raise all ships.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So you're a humble guy with lots of success and you're doing it because there's nothing else that you would rather be doing. You're balancing life. You're being a father as well as a rock star. You're getting up early and you're doing yoga and you're staying healthy. You also mentioned a bunch of the the industry, we talk about Beth and Adam Gontier and, the 3 Days Grace guys. It seems like a lot of the industry is really small and that there's a lot of good people that are working with good people. I mean, even two of the members that you worked with, I don't know if you still do or did before, but they were with Ian Thornley's band, Thornley, for a while. In your perspective, is the Canadian industry really tight knit and small? Are there more good people than bad people, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it is tight and small. Um, yeah, Tavis and Kale both were in Thornley before um, it was kind of perfect timing. We were changing some things, and our drummer at the time knew them and said, "Why don't we call Tavis and Kale and see what they're up to?" And that was you know the the birth of a wonderful friendship with those two guys. And Tavis and I now are kind of at the helm of Art of Dying, and I'm doing all the writing, he's doing all the production, and we're doing all the promotion together. And it's we've really become close friends over the years. And Kale too. I mean, we're less in touch with Kale. He's out on the road with 3 Days Grace right now, and so he's not involved in our day to day as much. But yeah, I'm so fortunate to have those guys in my life, and just two of the greatest humans I know for sure. So yeah, I think it is small though. Like, um, there's something to be said about if you can stay humble. I mean, people see that,
Mm,
nobody wants to do a favor for the asshole in the room, right? It's kind of like, oh yeah, that guy's a good guy. Yeah, let's get it. Let's do a. Oh, that guy wants me to sing on his record. Sure, like we've had Adam sung on our records. Sean from Seether has sung on our records. Um, we've never really asked anyone, to who didn't sing on our record, because it was just
mm,
kind of that small world of brotherly. Like, hey, dude, you want to come in and do a verse on this song? Yeah, fuck yeah, why not? You know. And we've always had that camaraderie. I don't know if this happens for all bands, but we've kind of been a band's band. Like, it seems like other bands like our music more than like record labels do. It's like,
yeah.
I'm in touch constantly with like the Disturbed guys still, and they just liked what they heard, and they liked us as humans. And we rolled up to our first ever show with them, and you roll in the back in the parking lot, and we're in this like rented RV from Ontario, and just like not pro. It was just, they were kind of laughing at how green we were. Like, they're rolling in their 4 tour buses, trucks and stuff, and we're like
Yeah.
rolling in an RV, but we're just playing hacky sack in the parking lot, drinking some light beers at 1 p.m. And they're just like smiling, looking at us, going like, I like these guys, like they just, this is cool. This is fun. These guys are having fun in
Yeah.
a dark alley, in the middle of nowhere, and always smiles on our faces. And we'd always be singing harmonies, man. And I think, um, to, to me, there's nothing more beautiful in the world than two voices coming together, making a harmony. It's better than the best sound I can imagine. And so when we're backstage, we'd always have an acoustic, and we'd always be doing 3-4 part harmonies, working on songs. And other bands would always notice that and be like, wow, you guys all get along, and you guys all sing, and you sound like freaking angels. What's going on over here? So we've been lucky to have a lot of bands kind of help us. And we're very grateful too, like it didn't go unnoticed uh, that all these guys took an interest in us and helped us along the
Mhm.
way. And I would always, that's ingrained in me now. If there's a band that needs help, or if we are in a position to, if somebody wants me to sing with them on a record and I like their record, like, I'm totally into that, because that's the only way. Bands got to take care of bands, I think, is the message.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Real recognizes real, good recognizes good. Maybe we just call it warm fuzzies to
There
perpetuate that thought,
you
the warm fuzzies. So
go.
w- outside of being a good person, staying humble, staying true to your art, and obviously being all in music or creation, you guys have done the industry side, the label side, and then you chose to go independent. You've done albums, but then more recently you waterfalled stuff, which I think is the best idea for bands now. I love this idea of taking back ownership, not needing a label. You still need a team. I think you need a community around you to do a really good job, especially as that business grows. Drop the album first, get it out there, generate as much revenue off it as possible, then drip feed it on DSPs and use that as the marketing to pull people into the world, to pull people into the Bandcamp or wherever you're hosting stuff. That's how I see things now. Not saying that's the only solution. In your opinion, what are one or two of the things that artists really need to focus on to have success within, the world of music? What are key things that you would for sure never not do?
I think staying open-minded and not locking yourself in, being able to maneuver quickly is kind of the most important thing now. Because if something's blowing up on an app you've never heard of, you probably need to be over there doing something there.
Mm.
I don't have as much drive in the promotional world as I do in the artistic world. So I can't say I'm a guru in any sort of way, and I still struggle with like new platforms and like, okay, now I have to become a TikTok specialist. This is going to be good, right? And I'm a little old school when it comes to that stuff. So, but the release plan you just mentioned, that is key to keep your ear to the ground, and and do what's called for now. We put out Armageddon as a full record right when things were changing to singles, and I feel like we were a little slow on that. Like, I still was in love with the idea of a record's a record. It's got to come out as a record. And looking back, right after that album, we changed our release philosophy and we started dripping out singles. And then once we had 10 singles out over a year, we would then drop a physical album of that, which I think worked great for about 3 or 4 years there. That was really the best way to release music. Now we flipped totally back to the plan you just mentioned. We're releasing a full 10 song record that's never been heard, never on DSPs, brand new material to our core audience. We'll tease it on places like Bandcamp. We'll you can go and have a listen first. So I kind of think that's a good place to be. Bandcamp used to scare me. Like the name, I didn't get it. I was like, Bandcamp, what's that? Like, I need to be on there? Why? I don't get it. I'm not joining another thing. Well, now I'm completely changed. I'm like, no, Bandcamp is great. Like, start a community there, start a following there. People want to hear from you when they're on Bandcamp. That's why they're there, is to consume
Mhm.
music. They want to be the first to know. So that's where we tell people, like, sign up on our Bandcamp, and then you'll be the first to know about new music there. You'll be the first person to hear it there as well. You might not be able to buy it yet there. You might just be able to hear it. Um, but then when the record drops, you'll definitely be able to buy it either on our website or on Bandcamp that day. And that's really important, I think, to be able to sell physical vinyl, physical CDs. And there's a lot of the industry has really come around to print on demand now. So there's some print on demand places where you don't have to go invest $10,000 in printing 1,000 records. You can just have your CDs made one at a time and ship out to people, which is amazing.
Mhm.
We're doing that with T-shirts and CDs and vinyl right now, and we're gonna increase that to cassette tapes and just collector items and things like that. And then we're gonna slowly, as you mentioned, release over the next year. We'll release all 10 of those songs on DSPs, so that people in the Spotify, Apple Music world can hear that as well, and consume it as, I guess they'd be consuming it as singles at that point, right? So
Yeah.
people that want a physical record, a physical vinyl CD, they'll have it for a whole year before the last song comes out on DSPs. But you're right, it's like that becomes an advertising campaign for the record itself. So it's a cool thing right now.
Yeah, I
But
think
stay versatile, because
stay
that's cool.
versatile is such a.
Yeah, that's cool right
Sorry, go
now.
ahead. We got a connection.
It might not be the way to release music a year from now or 6 months from now. Like, it might totally change by then. So you just got to keep your eyes and ears open, stay versatile, and just try and make good decisions.
Yeah, I'm entirely with you, and I love that general idea of just staying open minded, staying nimble, because especially within technology, things happen so fast and change all the time. And the more you stay adaptable, flexible, you'll catch on trends. You'll figure out what's right for you in the moment, because it's not going to always be the same thing. Uh,
Totally.
Core audience too is super key, because I think there's so many artists that are like, oh, if I just get a million streams or a million active listeners, what are monthlies on Spotify, it's going to be amazing. But they don't look at the business side. They don't say, okay, well, how many of those, what percentage of that audience is actually a true fan? Like, how many of those people will actually be bums in seats or for purchasing physically? You have to focus on that community, that village of core audience members that are going to generate the revenue, that are going to support you unconditionally, because the rest of the people are just passive listeners that aren't going to be doing anything to change the course of your career. Use that instead to bring more people, like funnel more people down to the elite crew here that's really following the band.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, just to add on to that, just stay in touch with your core audience. Let them know how you feel about them. Uh, Definitely respond to everything that comes in your way. Comment on comments. Make people feel like that you're as important to them as they are to you, and
Mhm.
it becomes that symbiotic relationship of a fan for life kind of thing. And you're right, DSPs. I mean, from the way they're acting these days, DSPs, especially Spotify, they're not in the business of helping musicians. They're not in the business of getting you paid. They're in the business of actually getting the major labels paid. And when they brought that rule in last year of no song under 1,000 spins gets paid at all, I thought that was just garbage, man. Like, if I was like my 11-year-old daughter right now, if I was 11 writing my first song and dreamed of it being on Spotify, and it got on there, and I got, you know, 500 listens, I would just be thrilled. I would be like, 500 people listen to my song. That would give me the energy to go make another song and get it on there. And then when my check for $17 showed up, like later that year, I'd be like, I not only did I get to make some music, people heard it and I got a little bit of money. That's going to
Yeah.
really be encouraging, right? Like, I'm going to build that into $170 next time, And they just swiped that carpet like right under everyone's feet. And now all these little young artists who are just hoping for a little exposure and maybe that first check in the mail, that it's insignificant, the amount. You don't even cash it, you frame it, right? It's just like
Yeah.
like you won something, And the reason they did that, I don't know if everyone knows this story, but the reason they did that is because the major labels pressured them. There was too much money being paid out because there was millions of songs that were less than 1,000 spins, and people were getting these $2 checks, but it was millions, hundreds of millions. I don't know how many people. So let's say it was 200 million people with songs less than 1,000. There are actually $200 million going out in these little tiny checks to all these kids who are writing music around the world. And the major label said, you know what? How about you just cancel that program and give us the 200 million every year, and we'll scratch your back. And it's like, that's some harsh shit, man, for the major labels to rob all these little kids making their music of their first paycheck under 1,000 spins. I think that's just absolute garbage, man. So when Spotify decided to do that, I was like, first thought was just like, these guys are not really on our side here for
Yeah.
nurturing and making sure everyone's getting a fair shake or a fair share. So they're going to continue cutting deals with the labels. They're going to continue cutting deals with AI music. And I've heard this is complete conjecture, but I've heard that Spotify DSPs are actually flooding the market with AI music so that they can launch a new tier soon that costs more, where you get rid of the AI music out of your feed, but you have to pay more. So wouldn't that be a hey, you're normally paying $13 or whatever it is for Spotify. Well, if you pay 20, no, you can avoid AI music. Like, it's a total scam. So anyway, don't get
Yeah.
me started. I can rant.
That's for
I
the
just
next conversation. The
it's for the
conspiracy
younger
theories around the
artists,
music
man.
industry.
The younger artists I just remember, like, I used to frame um my if I was trying to apply for anything, like apply for this festival, try to get a record deal over here. Anytime you'd get a note back saying, sorry, you have been declined, we are not like the those letters, I I loved getting them because it was just firing me up to go
Mm.
harder, and I feel like that could have been the way those little royalty checks could have been for artists. So yeah, gets me fired up.
I think that, you said something earlier, which I agree with. You said that I think that record labels are basically obsolete now, or close to it. Maybe there is a last ditch effort to just claw as much cash as possible before inevitably there is this huge change within the industry where we go less from control and top down, more to collaborative, by the people for the people. I remain positive, and I'm trying to perpetuate this change within this industry because it's gone, a certain way for a certain while. And I think we need to do away with that. So here's to change, Johnny. Here's to things
Yes,
going
I like
back to better.
I like
Let me let me let's end here. Let's end with this one last kind of. I'm going to give you some stuff, and then I want you to wrap us up. A final thought, a final word for listeners, viewers out there. I want to say thank you to you. Normally, it's for the time, and I'm just grateful for this conversation. But you're the first musician who I'm really going to genuinely say thank you for the music to, because when I went through some of the hardest periods in my life, it was music that really helped me out the most. I mean, yes, there's the exercise and the diet and the kids and support and all of these things that I was doing. But when I had those moments, somehow life would always just throw a song on the radio. I'd turn on the car and it was boom, Biff, I love myself today. Or it was Incubus, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms. It was always there. But there were very few artists or bands that had as many life affirming, inspirational, get the fuck up and go live your life songs and lyrics as you. So thank you for, giving us, the world, so much remembrance of just go, man. It'll be all right.
well, you're welcome. And I blame my parents, man. They gave me all this warm fuzzies and hope and stuff, and I just unconditionally want to share that with the world, and it's true, we can do this.
Yeah. So wrap us up. Tell the world a little piece of special Johnny advice that they can put in their pocket and take away.
Whoa, Johnny advice. I'm gonna go back to a glass of wine with lunch. That's gonna be my advice to everyone. Like, let's chill out a bit. Let's enjoy our lives. Let's not be consumed with the negative things in the world. I mean, I'm like everyone out there. I get on my thing, I scroll a bit, and I'm like, 20 minutes later, I look up and I feel like, holy shit, we're in rough shape, this world, And I feel like maybe, make a nice lunch, open a bottle of wine, share it with someone you love, try and make some art every day. And it's healing for yourself and it's healing for the world. So whatever that means to you, it doesn't have to mean music. It can just mean anything. My daughter is a fantastic musician already in her life, but she just took up drawing and now she loves drawing too. And it's just like, wow. And she'll show me a drawing. I'll be like, it'll just send warmth into my life for the rest of the day, just looking at her drawing, you know? And it's like, and I'm sure parents, you guys get this all the time with our kids. We love that stuff. But I feel like as we get older, we we let our art go. You know, we don't draw. we, so make sure you find something in your life that speaks to you on an artistic level and do it every day. And just share that with the people you love, and share, even throw it online if you want to. Share it with people you don't even know. See what happens. It'll come back, and hopefully it'll be that warm fuzzy circle, and you'll feel what we feel as musicians and what everyone should feel every day.